Today's session, I call it core strengthening. The core being that part of our body. Sometimes we call it the area where we cultivate abdominal strength. And this is going to be particularly guided by our breath. And the kind of breathing that we do is called Ujjayi breathing. And I'll just demonstrate it. It's an inhalation and exhalation that's audible to your hearing. You can do this along with me. And I've turned up the volume a little bit in how I'm breathing, but the sound is made by closing at the back of the lower palate and the back of the throat. And then on the inhalation and the exhalation, it's an audible breath. Let's begin by going to the mat and taking a lying down position. And in the way of props for today, it's very minimal. All you'll need is a strap and a block. So as we take that lying down position, keep the block near to you and your strap as well. And bend your legs and have your feet on the floor near to your buttocks. And because there's a breath emphasis strongly through this session today, let's start out by noticing the breath and folding the hands across the abdominal area, one hand above the navel, one below, and begin to feel your breath as it moves into the abdomen, inhaling fully and exhaling fully. So we're directing the breath on the inhalation to inflate the abdomen, and then releasing from that, and the abdomen moves towards the floor. If we accompany that with the Ujjayi breathing, you might find that you can increase the depth of the breath on every cycle. And now that we're in the swing of the breathing, let's take that into Apanasana and lift your knees towards you. Just relax your feet, so the shin bones, the feet are just dangling towards the floor. One hand at the front of each knee. And then let's begin the breathing cycles. Drawing the thigh bones towards you, and then a push away with the arms straight. If you keep your knees a little parted and your feet slightly parted, then you can just maybe sense and feel a little more internal rotation of the thighs. And in that way, you can keep the sitting bones towards the floor a little bit more easily, even when you bring your thighs towards you. So the tailbone, the sitting bones moving towards the floor, even when the thighs are near to the ribs. Just a gentle pumping action for your digestion, for your elimination. That's what Apanasana is good for. And then pause there, and let's bring the feet back to the floor. Adjust the distance of your feet away from the pelvis so that the hamstrings and the quadriceps up front and the back of the thighs feel still like they can relax. And then bend your right knee in towards your chest, hold at the back of the right leg, and extend the leg up towards the ceiling. Let's alternately do a knee extension and a knee bend. And you can do this with your breath readily and use that Ujjayi breath again. So a nice movement for the knee joint, especially if you're starting to use the quadricep a little bit more, that front thigh muscle. And let's hold the extension of the leg and circle your foot. So I think in almost every session of yoga, I do this sort of circling for the sake of my toes and my foot bones and my ankles. And then pausing, let's, in that extension, bring the hands to the front of the thigh. So both hands resting on the front of the right thigh, and then press your thigh towards your hands. And then release. Press and release. And you might feel a little bit more work through your abdominal muscles as you add that kind of pressure. Right, and then bring your right hand to the outside of your right thigh, near to your hip, so the flat of your palm against your leg. Let your left knee drop to the left side, and rest the left hand in the same position on the outside of your left thigh. And then let's take right leg to the right and left leg to the left. But we're impeding the movement towards the floor so that as you take your right leg to the right, it's still supported. And feel that the pelvis, in the back of the pelvis, lies evenly on the floor. So we'll get a little bit more stretch, actually a lot more stretch through the inner leg. And some strengthening work for the thigh muscles. And then bring that leg all the way up to the vertical. Replace your right foot to the floor, 2 feet on the floor. And then bend your left leg in and slip your hands around the back of the thigh. Support that leg in extending the leg straight. And then a knee bend. Straightening. Feel that that thigh bone is well supported into the hip socket, even as you extend the leg away towards the ceiling. And hold the leg in the straight position now and do a little circling through the ankle and all the foot bones, one way and the other way. And then bring your hands to the front of the left thigh, to the quadricep, and press your hands lightly into the thigh, but then press the thigh bone back into your hands. See if you can do that and still accompany it with your breath work. Press and release. All right, and then let's take support there to the outer thigh, left hand on the outer left thigh and hip, and right hand on the outside of the right thigh. Then open the legs out to the side without tipping towards the straight leg side. And to discourage that from happening, use the abdominal toning. Feel that you're turning the abdominal muscles from left to right. And we're getting a good hamstring stretch at the same time. And then legs come up to center, left foot on the floor. Take pause and then feel the work that you did in the legs and through the abdominal area. Extend out your legs. And for the moment, release the legs entirely so the leg muscles are loose on the bone and the feet are dropping out. We're going to move on to a wall position for some more abdominal work. And so come to face towards your wall, seated, and in a moment when you lie down, your feet are placed on the wall and your knees and your feet are in a line. So I finished up and I have a right angle behind my knees and my feet in line with my knees. So that's all we're doing for the moment. Bring your hands up and place your palms flat against the front of your thighs. And then press your thighs into your hands and your hands lightly into your thighs. Let's say you're still working with your exhaling breath there, and then release. So let's alternate with Ujjayi breathing, exhaling, inhaling. Exhale, add pressure. Inhale, take a break. Notice as you do this very simple movement that there is for me, a pelvic tilt. That's actually a nice movement for the base of your spine. So tilting tailbone away from you and then slightly towards you. Last of all, imagine that you're moving your heels or your shin bones towards the floor when you do the strengthening, the core strengthening part of this, and then let it go. So feel the awakening of all those muscles around the thighs and around the hips and buttocks. And now we're going to move on to the more traditional yoga pose for abdominals, Navasana. So come up to a seated position again. And still facing the wall, and adjust your distance so that with your hands back supporting you behind your buttocks, when you bring your feet on the wall, with your legs straight, your feet are at eye level. So I have a direct line between my eyes and my toenails. And the support of the arms allows you to lift and open your chest and draw your shoulders back. Press lightly into your soles of your feet a little bit more and begin to feel the toning through the thigh muscles again. Let's see if we can maintain this lift and straightness through our back as much as possible and bring the hands to support at the backs of the legs. Then pull a little bit on the backs of the legs and bring yourself upright again. And let's take a little break, a back rest, and feet come to the floor and lie out just for a pause. And we're going to take the next progression of Navasana. And coming up for that, and feet on the wall, and lengthening through the spinal column. And then you might stay with holding at the backs of the legs, or you might extend the arms out in this position. And when the arms are extended, there's that tone through the abdominal muscles. Adopt your Ujjayi breathing so you can feel the breath moving through the body. And then we're ready to take a break again. Using the wall for support keeps me from overusing my hip muscles to keep my legs up. I want to rely more on my abdominal muscles than my hip muscles. All right, last one of these. If you are ready to progress one step further, still use the wall as need basis. But if you move away from the wall now, supporting yourself initially with your hands behind you, and then extending the legs out. Soon as I did this, then my hip flexors turned on. So I'm going to bend my legs with my shin bones parallel with the floor. And that releases them to some extent. You might be able to bring the arms up as well. And you're breathing. And then happily release your torso to the floor, your feet to the floor. I'm going to give my quads a little pat, pat, pat. Job well done. Maybe a little bit too well done. And then we're going to come all the way up to standing. I think we can do another strengthening movement for our legs and working with our breath. And we'll do that in the wall version of Utkatasana, the chair pose. So if you move into the wall and have your back to the wall, step your feet out. I don't know what the appropriate distance will be for you, but for me it's about 35 centimeters away from the wall. And then once you're well supported there, bend your legs. And allow the torso to slide down the wall. How much have I bent my legs? Well, I have a big angle behind my knees, not going towards a right angle as yet. And if I work in the progression of this pose, the farther down I go, the more work there is for the thigh muscles. So my hands resting on my thighs, I can do a little test and feel whether those muscles are toned. They're very much toned as I'm holding my pose here. And then let's slide up the wall. Keep a little knee bend. And then give a jiggle to your quadriceps, your front thigh muscles, and feel how much looser they are at the moment. Now we want them to switch on for the next round. And so leaving your hands there, you can feel it's as though the quadriceps are drawn up into the hip fold. Release your arms by your side. Let your arms just be relaxed. And then if you're ready to, and still using Ujjayi breathing, take a little deeper bend of the knees. Shoulders are relaxed. Come up as you need to. I'm going to hold it a little bit longer. And then push away and push away from the wall as well. And freestanding. Shake a leg, shake the other leg, give them a shake out. And that feels really lovely when you do that. And then let's do a balancing pose. So we're in the sequence of today. We're a little bit light on balancing, but as long as we're using the wall, we can take it for a balancing pose with your feet closer to the wall. So standing straight, I've got my feet now just about one length of my feet, about a foot away from the wall, and my backside completely supported by the wall. Shift your weight over onto your left foot and bring your right foot flat into the wall. So take a knee bend right leg and place your right foot solidly into the wall. As I did that and lifted up my leg and my hip, I leant over to the left side. So let me see if I can come back to center, my trunk back to center. Good. You can keep your palms resting on the wall for the next part. We're going to repeat this a couple of times. So initially a little bit more support there. And you're going to come away head, shoulders, and buttocks all at the same time and balancing over your left leg. Good. And then on an exhalation, returning to the wall, feel your abdominal muscles supporting you. Head, shoulders, and buttocks coming back to the wall all at the same time. I'm going to release my hands from the wall and see how that works. Not too bad, a little shakier though. And then coming back to the wall and landing hopefully lightly. Good, let's switch sides, which could be quite different, first side to the second side. And your balancing leg, shift your weight back to center, so you're on the inside of your weight balancing foot. And then let's do our push away. And your shoulders are relaxed. And coming back, head, shoulders, buttocks, all at the same time. And maybe my second side learned from my first side. Keep your abs engaged. And then let's finish there and away from the wall and 2 feet on the ground. It's quite a lot of focus that requires. And maybe take a little few steps and shake out your legs. All right. And then let's move on to some more traditional poses, very traditional poses in the standing pose category. So starting with Tadasana, come to stand in the middle of your mat and facing the long end of your mat. And standing with your upright and comfortable Samastiti Tadasana. Soften at the backs of your knees. Allow your shoulders to drop out. And then engage the abdominal muscles lightly by drawing up from the pubic bone to the navel to the sternum, and soften the diaphragm ribs. Your beautiful Tadasana mountain pose. Let's test your balance here and take a slight sway forward and feel your forefoot engage as you do that, and then go the other way and that sway back towards your heel bones. And go forward and back like that. Notice how the leg muscles have to be very lively here, engaged. And just check that you're not tightening your shoulders. Okay, and then let's take the sway out to the right and to the left. And inevitably, we get to circling and see how that feels. As though you're drawing the circumference around the outside of your feet and the other way. I can feel my hands are quite trying to be helpful. So notice if other parts of your body are trying to be recruited to help with this movement. Okay, good. And then come to a complete halt. Good. Now that you're in the center, sometimes you still feel like you're moving, so feel your two footprints, right foot, left foot. Lovely. And then let's reach for the ceiling. And I was just thinking about this gesture that the arms make. If you make it a little wider, it's as though your arms say with all of your body, yes. It's a big yes symbol. Yes to a very beautiful day where I'm living. Good. And then bring the arms in closer to your head and stretch one arm up and then the other arm up. And alternate so that you're getting side body work. And right through the waist and the rib cage on the side. Reaching for the ceiling. And then happily releasing the arms out to the side. I say happily because it's nice when your arms have been up. It's very nice to bring them down. Good. And let's take Uttanasana. So turn sideways on your mat so that you're facing the short end of the mat. We're going to take Uttanasana to downward facing dog pose to kneeling all fours position. So raise your arms on the inhalation. On the exhalation, dive forward. Let's do Uttanasana with your head up. So holding your shin bones, straighten your arms, inhale and lift your chest, look out. Exhale, now we're coming down to downward facing dog pose. Place your hands down and walk your feet back. Take another breath there, or several Ujjayi breaths would be appropriate. Good. And then come down to kneeling. So balancing your weight on your knees and your hands. There's the potential of moving the spine towards the floor and up towards the ceiling. Keep your abdominal muscles engaged as you do this. And even when you dip the spine forward towards the floor, there's some support from the abdominal. And then find neutral position. And let's shorten the waist on the right side as you turn your head towards the right and look back towards your right hip. And then do that in reverse on the left side. And left hip moves towards the left shoulder and you're looking towards that side. Go back and forth a couple more times. And maybe you'll start to feel the oblique muscles, those ones that support the sides of the abdomen. Once more right. Once more left. And then back to neutral. If at any point you need to rest your wrists, you can come down onto your elbows and be supported onto your forearms instead of your hands. Lift your right knee towards your chest. Tuck it in. Tuck your head towards your knee. Extend your right leg back behind you as you lift it off the floor. And then bring it in. Tuck. Extend. Keep listening for the sound of your own breath. So it's never rough. And if it becomes rough, then probably you've gone a little bit too far. Both knees in a line on the floor now. Both knees supported. Let's go other side. And left knee in, head towards your knee. Left leg out. Keep your pelvis level. So use your body sense. See if you can sense and feel whether the hips, the back of the pelvis is still straight. Last time bringing that leg in and out, and then replacing, and both knees in a line. And do come down onto your elbows now. So we're doing a little bit of buttocks towards your heels. Too strong on your knees, keep your buttocks elevated. Flip your hands over so that your palms face the ceiling, and open and stretch the palms from your thumb to your little finger. Good. And then let's go back to where we were and supporting ourselves either onto our hands or onto the forearms. Find your breath rhythm again. And let's go the next progression in this. So lift your right knee off the floor. Lift your left hand off the floor. And keep those limbs bent. And then stretch away. Extend your arm, extend your leg. Tuck in. Use your breath. It's all important here. Stretch it out. Tuck in. Extend your arm, extend your leg. Good. Let's go to ground. Both sets of limbs supported, both hands, both knees, and then starting on the left side. And, or I should say, left knee comes in, right elbow comes in, extend away. There's movement through the torso as you tuck in. You're looking back towards your knee, knee towards your chest. And then lengthen out and look out. And one more. And both hands in a line, both knees in a line. And take a break. Do take a break. Draw your buttocks back towards your heels. Draw your elbows back towards your knees. Fold your hands if you like here. And rest your head onto your top hand. Rather than Ujjayi here, a nice breath cycle, couple of cycles. Imagine letting go with a sigh. That can be audible or just an internal sigh. And take a few breaths like that, relaxing your shoulders, letting your shoulder blades fall out. All right, and then for the last of this progression, we're going to extend the limbs in the same manner. So let's start right leg, left arm, and you're balancing on your right hand and your left knee. And then take those limbs out to the side on the diagonal. So it's left arm to the left, right leg to the right. Bring them back to center. And stay balanced as you can. And as much as you can, arms away from the center line of your body and then coming back in. Good. And then, however that worked, this is just a practice. It's not a performance. So you've done fine there with probably an unfamiliar movement. Let's go opposite side. Left leg extends back, right arm extends forward, and then take those limbs out away from the center line of the body and back in. Shoulders stay level if you can, and the hips stay level, and back into center, and one of those child's pose versions, your version of child's pose, and with that lovely breathing pattern where it feels when you're breathing out that you're just melting into the floor. And let's use downward facing dog pose as a way to move on. So take, in a particular way today, take your hands around the outside of the mat and tuck your fingers underneath, your thumb on top. And you've got a hold of the sides of the mat, and just imagine you're dragging the mat forward. And then as you set yourself up for downward facing dog pose, tuck your toes under, draw the navel up towards the backbone, and then lift knees, lift hips. Your hands are wide here, so make your feet wide too, and step your little toes out towards the edge of the mat. Then lift your heels high. This is a great toe stretch for my sometimes stiff toes. And I'm right on the balls of the toes, actually the backs of the toes, and my buttocks piked up nice and high towards the ceiling. Lift your tailbone, stretch your shoulders. Good. And then drop your knees. Release your hands. Take a breath there, folding down towards the floor. We'll do one more dog pose in the conventional way. So hands placed shoulder width apart. Lift up using your abdominal muscles and your feet hip width apart. Feel the shoulders stretch again. Keep to your breathing rhythm, Ujjayi breathing, and then take a walk forward or walk your hands back and come all the way up to standing. And once standing, let's get on with those standing poses. So take Tadasana facing the long end of your mat once more. Trikonasana, triangle pose. Let's step out for that. Adjust your distance and turn your feet to the right. Raise your arms out to shoulder height and extend out to the tips of your fingers. Feel your thigh muscles again. So it's been a little while, but when we did the work at the wall, we were drawing up the quadriceps towards the hip fold. So let's keep the legs strong and extend out to the right side, away from your left leg. And when you've gone to the right far enough, merely drop your right arm beneath your right shoulder, extend your left arm up towards the ceiling. Good. This is a good time to check shoulders and roll your shoulders away from your neck. Good. And feel into your back leg and lift your tailbone. When I do that, it seems to give me a little more access to my lateral, increasing my lateral stretch. We're going to come up as though from the back leg. So feel your left leg strong. Inhale and come up. And turn your feet opposite. Left foot turns in a little, right foot turns out 90 degrees. And then extend out to the left side and left hand down, right arm up. Good. See if you can broaden the space between the shoulder blades. The arms extend away from each other in that vertical line. And then feel into the back leg again. That's your left leg. And lift your tailbone. One breath will bring you up. Strong back leg. Inhale and come all the way up. And turn your feet to center. And step all the way back in. Find your Tadasana, your feet slightly apart. Drop your shoulders. Earlier, you were searching for balance between the back of your foot, the front of your foot. Feel your forefoot. Feel your heel bone. Relax your shoulders. Just soft Ujjayi breathing as there's less effort. And let's step out for Warrior 2 pose, Virabhadrasana 2. And turn your feet to the right. We get to take a lunge position here. Open your arms out to the side. Stretch the tips of your fingers. And then take that lunge. Right leg bends. And let's warm it up a little bit and straightens. A bend and a straight leg. And then let's hold the bent leg in that lunge and stretch back into the left leg. So only one leg is bent, but that back leg is strong. Feel the left footprint. Open out to the tips of your shoulders and look right. Listen to your breath again and let your breath bring you up. Straight right leg, looking forward and turning your feet the other way. If you can, keep the arms up continuously. By all means, if you need to rest, then have your hands onto your hips. Bend your left leg. And from the outset, looking left along that straight left arm, extending to the tips of your fingers. Feel into your back leg, solid on the leg muscles. Oh, I think I forgot to alternately bend and straighten. So we could do a little of that anyway. It's a lovely movement. When you do this as a warm-up, it's a gliding movement. And we're holding the pose as a static pose now with the knee bend. Draw the navel up. Keep the diaphragm ribs soft. And then looking forward and straightening that leg and feet to center. Lower your arms. Step all the way back in. And there's a natural progression here, I would think, to Parsvakonasana, another bent leg position. So take your block for this. I'm going to use my block for support and step out again. Stepping out and turn your feet to the right. And my placement is the block on the high end in front of my right heel, So on the inside of the leg. And then keep your left hand onto your left hip initially. Bend your right leg and extend your right arm out to the right side. Good. That's where we're going, but it's from a strong base. So feel the left footprint and a solid left leg. And then extend your torso over your right thigh. Bring your hand down to the block. It's a little bit high with the warm-up that I've done so far. So I'm going to knock it down a peg. But also, if you're finding that this hip bend to the side is too strong for you, you can come up and just place your elbow onto your knee. There's always the variations. And then from here, extend your left arm up towards the ceiling. Turn your palm towards the right side and extend that arm overhead to whatever extent you can. Lift your tailbone. Strengthen your back leg. You're coming up from the left leg. Inhale and take your block with you and switch sides. Good. Going really well here. And your feet turning to the left. Set yourself up. Sometimes one side will be very different than the other, so you don't know the height of your block at the moment, but you'll soon find out. Extend your arms out wide. Let's keep the arms extended on this side and bend your left leg. Take your lunge. Take your trunk over the left thigh. Reach down. And at the same time as your hand comes down for support, extend your right arm up towards the ceiling. Stretch away. Turn your palm towards the left side. And then let's extend the the right arm above your right ear. Bring your ear towards your arm. Stretch back into your right leg. Lift your tailbone. Listen to your breath. And then inhale and come all the way up. Turn your feet to center. Leave your block at the front of your mat. You'll get to it a little bit later. And step right back in. Good. Take a couple of shoulder rolls. One direction, the other direction. And then let's do warrior one pose in this manner. So I'm facing the short end of my mat now, and I've got my block to place on the high end, the tallest end, near to the front of the mat. So from here I'm going to move myself to the front of the mat, and my feet are as wide as the width of that block. Place your big toes against your block, and then you're well set for this position. And then from here, we're going to move into warrior one pose, keeping the hips straight forward as much as possible. So take a step back with your left leg. If you take your leg back too far, it'll swing that hip out to the side, and you'll be kind of creating a torque in your sacrum, in your lower back. So not too big a step, but not too small a step either. Hips are square and level. And then let's take a knee bend, a lunge, and when the arms come up, they're at a right angle at the elbows. Beautiful. Let's come out of that position, lowering the arms, straightening the leg. And warrior one with the elbows crooked. And feel into the back leg again and tone the hamstrings and the buttock. And arms come down. One more of those, just so that you can feel the support of the back leg. And then from here, extend the arms up towards the ceiling. Turn the palms to face in. The palms turn in, the upper arms turn in. Draw the navel up and allow the head to chin tilt up and look towards your hands. Good. And then straighten that front leg, lower the arms at the same time, and step up one movement as much as possible. And then step the right leg back. And do that check so that you know that your hips are still square and level. And then let's work through the bent arm position, lunging, and arms come up, arms come down, leg is straight. With the breath, one more, and holding it this time, and feeling into the back leg. So we don't want to give that short shrift. Feel the hamstrings, the buttock on the right leg side, and then extend up the arms. Turn your palms in. Feel your arms drawn into the shoulders, right at the very topmost arms. And looking up. And then straight leg as arms come down, and stepping up to the block. Good. Good work. We have a little more work to do in the standing poses, and probably at this point it would be good to do a rotating pose. So come back to face the long end of the mat. Have your block in front of you. And step out a little wider than you've done in the previous poses. And look at the space that you've taken up there. Check your stance of your feet and bring your heels a little bit wider. Stand steady on your feet. Open your toes, spread your toes, lengthen them. Lift up the knees and draw up the front thigh muscle like you've done a few times in this session, right towards the hip fold. Draw the navel up as well. Bring your arms out wide to the side. So we're going to do a rotation over the right leg and bring left hand to your right foot in a forward bend. So rotating right, bring the arms back up, upright, and then go opposite side. Kind of a windmill movement, I guess. And we'll do 3 of these all together, 3 sets. Your breath is so important here. So I'm exhaling in my forward side bending and inhaling to come up. And last one. And back up and steady in the center. And then take a rest for your arms, hands to hips. Good. Think about your posture again. Keep that lift through your lower abdomen up towards your ribs. And then let's do this as a more static position. So take a hinge forward from the tops of your thighs and come halfway down to the floor. Pull that block in and rest your left hand onto the block and turn and look to the side. And when you've gone far enough in that direction, draw your shoulder back, draw your elbow back. Good. Feel like your 2 feet are firmly planted. You can feel both footprints. And then look down towards your hand and swap over Opposite hand onto your hip and turning to that side. Draw that shoulder back, that upper shoulder back, elbow. Good. Come back to center and with both hands onto the top of the block, straighten your elbows, lift your chest, and bring your hips a little farther forward. So we're just getting into the upper reaches of the hamstrings and tilting the tailbone up. Make sure that you're not dropping through the abdomen and draw that area up from your pubic bone to your navel. Feel the lift there. That's going to even help you lift and open your chest. Bring your left hand onto the block, your right hand onto your right hip, and turning to the right this time, we're going to see about raising that arm towards the ceiling. So upper arm comes up. If that's too strong in your shoulder, one side or the other, keep your hand, by all means, keep it onto your hip. And then looking down and bringing that arm down. Set yourself up again, lift your chest, and then supporting yourself onto your right hand, left hand to your hip. Turn, and turn a little bit more if you can, and then see what it's like on this side. And how is your breathing, your Ujjayi breathing? Is that helping you here? Open through your shoulder blades. And then both hands down. Pump up your chest again. Good. And then as long as we're here and we've put in all this work, let's take this as a complete forward bend. If you don't need the block, cast it to the side. Release your head down. Lift your tailbone up. And allowing yourself to come into a deeper forward bend, but keep well supported through your abdomen. So the navel, the abdomen is lifted up into the body. And then walk your hands a little forward and lift your chest. And then bring your feet in, heel, toe, until you're all the way back in the center. Bend your knees well, your knees over your ankles. Come up with your arms just loose by your side and all the way to standing. And we've done some really good work in the standing poses, so let's sit down now. So in terms of props, if you do have a blanket to sit on here, that might be helpful. I'm just going to sit on my block. Legs straight out. I was endeavoring to keep my props to the minimum today to see what that was like. Let's say right leg, stretch it out. Bend your left knee out to the left side. And you're striking a pose that looks very much like Janu Shirsasana. If you need some support underneath that bent leg knee, you can roll up your mat a little bit or put another block underneath your knee. Let's turn towards your right leg and see what your forward bend movement is like at the moment. If you can reach to your, catch your foot with your hands, that's a fine way to go. I've got my yoga strap next to me, so I think since we haven't done so much work on hamstrings, I'll catch hold of my foot with the belt. So we're going to use this pose that looks like Janu Shirsasana, but we'll call it Maha Mudra as a breathing exercise. So the way the breathing goes is to work through the torso from the bottom to the top. in lifting the pelvic floor, in drawing the navel back and the ribs back, and bringing the chin towards the chest. And we do that sequentially. So take hold of the strap or hold your foot, extend out the right leg. On the inhalation, draw up through the take a deep inhalation, lift the pelvic floor, draw the diaphragm ribs in, and bring your chin towards your chest, Jalandhara Bandha. And then exhale and release. And let's go once more through that breathing pattern. Inhale fully, lift up and create a lock through the Mula Bandha. And then draw the diaphragm ribs in and lift the chest. And then bring the chin towards the chest. That's all on the inhalation. And then exhaling and lifting your head and changing legs. Left leg straight, right leg bent out to the side. Take support as you need it. And then stretch over your left leg. Turn your trunk slightly towards the left leg. Relax your shoulders. And you've got a grip of the belt or you're holding your foot. So on a long inhalation, draw up through the base of your torso. Draw the ribs in towards the back body. Bring your chin towards your chest towards your chin. Hold that. And then release slowly without gushing the breath on the exhalation. And we'll go one more round. Inhale completely. And creating those three locks, the base of the torso drawing up, the diaphragm ribs, chin towards your chest towards your chin. And then allowing the breath to release completely and coming upright. Let's take the strap. Well, probably a good idea to stretch both the legs first. I'm going to come off my block support. Take your strap and we're going to bind it to make a big loop, as big a loop as possible. And when I've done that, that's how wide the loop is. Then take a lying down position on your back. We're just going to fit in an inverted pose here at the end. It's always nice to include some form of inversion in a session. So I've got my block. I'm going to place it underneath my sacrum and my upper buttocks. And the block is on the low end. I think that works best. And then do any shifting around and nuzzle your hips into the block so that they feel comfortable. The back of the pelvis is well supported. Then bend your knees into your chest and slip the belt over your feet. And then bring the legs wide out into the splits. When you've done that, and the legs are in wide as you can, as wide as the strap splits, instead of bringing the legs towards you, keep them a little bit away from the vertical line, away from you, so that your tailbone is still moving towards the floor. So your buttock bones are still moving towards the floor. And then the shoulders are supported well onto the mat, unhunched. And I'm working my legs by pressing out the outer spine of the foot into the belt. And basically we are doing a hamstring stretch now and giving some relief to the quadriceps that we worked pretty strongly through the session. And that's, I would say, long enough on that stretch, particular stretch. And then bring your legs all the way together. Flex your feet so that your toes are down towards your knees. Extend up well through your heels. Lift up through the inner arches of your feet. Go the other way. Point your toes up towards the ceiling. Stretch the front of your legs from your front thighs to your tips of your toes. Alternate the two directions. And then bend your knees down towards your chest. And slip your hands around the front of the knees or the front of the shin bones. Depending on your anatomy, you could clasp your hands onto your legs. And you're in this kind of upside down version of child's pose. Still move the tailbone away from you. And it's time that we moved into the yoga relaxation. So let's come to ground, feet on the floor, slip the block out. And by all means, get any props that you need to make yourself completely comfortable lying out for 5 or 10 minutes in Shavasana. It's a really lovely thing to have a little bit of support behind the knees, or you can keep the legs bent as I'm doing with feet on the floor. Ultimately, I'll stretch out my legs, but initially having the legs bent is a good back release for me. If you haven't done it yet, then place your arms at a comfortable distance from the side of your body. A little space between your upper ribs and your upper arms, and palms uppermost. As you're ready, the legs release from the inner leg. So your feet will drop out, your knees drop out, and the groins release and recede. Begin to feel as though you're melting into the mat as the back body is supported by the mat, the floor, any soft props. And the front body, in its softening, rests lightly on the back body. And perhaps now moving away from Ujjayi breathing and towards your normal breathing pattern. Stay with noticing, being attentive to the breath. so that on every exhalation, and maybe the rounds of breathing are becoming a little shallower, maybe even deeper, but on every exhalation, more of the physical letting go of the body, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually, a letting go too. Stay as long as you like here. But if you feel this is the time for you to begin to think about moving and being active again, in anticipation of moving, move some little hand movements, feet movements, your head side to side. And only when you're completely sure that you're ready to move, fold your hands over the trunk, bend your legs, and roll onto one side. And take your time to come upright. And eventually finding your way to a comfortable seated position. Bring your hands up and place them center chest in prayer position in front of your sternum. Lift your elbows a little bit. And then take this time just to feel into the work that you've done through this session, the physical work, but the focus that you created. That's one of our aims in yoga, is to create an ability to be attentive and concentrate. And feel the gesture that your hands make that draws you nearer to yourself. Your thumbs resting in front of the heart center. Take a couple of breaths there into your heart. The gesture is a sign of respect and acknowledgement of yourself. And then let's take that into the wider community, respecting, acknowledging our place in that community. And we say namaste. Thank you.